Okay, guys, so we are live. So for those listening at home, welcome to the Dungeon Musings YouTube channel. My name is Kevin Madison, and I'll be your friendly game master, I guess, today. There's got to be a better name for that in this one. But today we are going to be, we had scheduled, we were going to be playing a session of the Marvel Multiversal game, but one of our players who was playing Moon Knight for our Moon Knight team-up adventures was unable to make it. So in lieu of that, we decided to take a different game out for a stroll. That is the excellent, published by Cubicle 7, Warhammer Age of Sigmar RPG Soulbound. This is one of the many Warhammer games that Cubicle 7 publishes at present, and it is one that is set in the Mortal Realms, the post-apocalyptic setting of the Age of Sigmar miniature game. Neither John nor Robert have played Soulbound before, so this is going to be a fun introduction, hopefully a fun introduction, an introduction nevertheless. Let me introduce you to the stars of today's session, and they can tell us who they're playing today. First up, we've got Robert.
Hi, I'm Robert. I'm playing Lisha, who I forget the actual archetype name because it's not on the sheet, but she's basically paladin-like.
Stormcast Eternal.
Stormcast Eternal, which is a paladin-like, I guess, a paladin analog. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do.
Yeah, so the Stormcast Eternal is your ancestry, and then your play, because your character is a sword and board, miracle casting kind of person, but the Stormcast Eternals run the full gamut like humans do, where they can be wizards or they can be like just non-magical fighters or whatnot.
So what's the archetype name in this?
So I tweaked your archetype. Both these characters. Well, Nox is a battle mage. You are probably, I think. Let's see here. The starting archetype was the Knight Quester.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, and then I substituted out one of your talents and added in Blessed instead, so you could cast miracles or invoke miracles, I guess. And then joining Robert is John.
Hey everyone, I am John, and in this particular iteration of a character, I'm unexpectedly playing Nox, the fireball-wielding spellcasting maniac.
Nice.
I hope I do you proud, George.
All right, so then these keen viewers or regular viewers of the channel may note as well, these are pretty close analogs of some characters from our Night Below campaign that we play on Wednesdays. That is not an accident. Now, one of the things that the game does as well is there's a lot of fun random elements that can be introduced over the course of the game, and then also in character creation there are some random elements, and I didn't want to make those decisions for you guys. So before we dive in, let's talk a little bit more about these characters and how these two know one another. So let's see here. First, let's talk about the connection between Lisha and Nox. Would you each give us a D6 roll, please?
D6.
Starting a session with some character generation stuff. I love it.
Yeah. Okay.
5.
So Lisha's a 5, and Nox is a 5. Whoa. So Lisha, Nox and you have matching tattoos.
Okay.
What are those tattoos, and what were they in relation to?
Now, did Nox get religious, or did Lisha got a little rebellious arc to her history? And
I don't know. Maybe they were drinking buddies back in the day and got drunk, ended up going past a tattoo parlor or whatever that's like.
Well, recall you guys are part of a Soulbound unit as well.
Okay.
So you are definitely. Well, here let's do this. Actually, there is another thing in the Champions of Order sourcebook. They give like things that happen when you are bound, and Lisha does not take part in the binding because your soul is sworn to Sigmar. But Nox, would you give us a 2d6 roll, please? Here's another neat thing. Okay, so 9. So another neat thing, the Soulbound process is not unique to one of the gods. There are different powerful entities who can be behind this. And Nox, your soul binding, it was Grungni, one of the dwarven gods, who was behind this. The Maker works his bindings in the same manner as his legendary metalwork, forging with mighty strikes of his hammer and his fires, and douses the binding in arcane searing heat and abysmal cold. By doing this, he seeks to temper his creations beyond the rigors of other gods. The bindings often emerge with an iron will and fiery temper akin to fresh forged metals. Some whisper that Grungni's bindings can be overly stubborn and prone to hold bitter grudges, but few would say such a thing to their face.
That is so in character with Nox's fire.
Yeah.
I will tell you that one of your allies in this, where is it here? Here we go. Vel Arturius. Let me show you. Vel is... Oh, no, that's not Vel. Hold on. Where is she? Imran. No, not Imran. God, 3 guesses. Here we go. Malgra Daneson. Malgra is a Dwarden, and we're going to get into talking about her, so that was a... There's Malgra for you. Mm-hmm. And let me do this quickly. Toughness. I'll set her token up the way that you guys are.
Self-catalyzing aethermantic expansion. Do you know what this means?
So
sounds explosive. One
of the factions in the setting is the Karadrin. Is a Dwarden faction. The Karadrin Endrineers. They are a wild steampunk-esque kind of dwarven faction, complete with flying ships and ether. Like this is I can't remember what they're called, the ether rigs. I'll show you what this is what Malgra looks like when she is in her Endrineer's gear. Mm-hmm. So it perhaps makes sense that it's Grungni who was involved with that. To what end would you each give us a D6 roll? And I'll just take this in the order I see them. So a 2.
Oh. Sorry.
2 and a 1. The reason for the binding, Nox, and Alicia, you were involved with the binding as well. Like you're kind of seconded to them. You're just not mystically connected to them all. The reason for this binding was to find and reclaim an artifact from the Age of Myth. Would you each give us another D6 roll?
Mm-hmm.
I think I know a reason why we got matching tattoos.
Yeah? Okay. So let's just finish going through this, and then you can tell us, because there may be some other things that will affect it. So 6 and a 1. Nox, you were chosen because you carved a path of single-minded and bloody revenge across 8 realms. That is why you were selected for this binding. Would you each give us a D6 roll? Let's see why Leisha was selected for it. Even though not mystically bound, you are part of this. A 6 and a 2. Leisha, you were chosen because you survived in the wastes alone for over a decade with only Sigmar as your companion.
That makes sense.
Okay. What did you gain from it? Let's just do 2d6 this time, because we'll just treat each of you. So each give us a 2d6 roll. Nox is a 6 and a 5. Mm-hmm. What did you gain from the binding, Nox? You no longer fear the monster that you used to. There's some monster you used to fear that you no longer fear, thanks to the binding. And since joining this, Leisha, 5 and a 2, there is a creative spark in you that you did not know existed. What did you lose? Nox, go ahead. And Leisha, go ahead. 4 and a 1. So, Nox, the rest of your impossibly long life will be fraught with war and danger. And Alicia...
That's what I signed up for.
5 and 4. Whew, this is interesting. So you're not mystically changed by this, but the nature of being part of this binding, you have changed so much you no longer recognize yourself in the mirror. And there is something with the...
George is commenting in the YouTube channel. I'm like, you're reading my mind, man.
That's awesome. Now, one of the neat things with the Stormcast Eternals is we roll to see how many times that you have been reforged. So would you give us a D6 roll, Alicia? Oh, exclamation mark. D6 exclamation mark.
Okay.
You've been reforged 10 times.
Okay.
Sigmar really likes you.
10 times you have died, your soul has been recalled back to Azir and reforged upon the anvil of apotheosis.
Well, maybe he doesn't like me. Maybe I'm just not doing the job that he wants me to do.
He spent 10 years with you. I mean...
Yeah.
And then most recently, that 10 years is within this, after your most recent reforging.
Okay.
Now let's talk about your short-term goals. So, as a member of the Free People's Nox, give us a D6 roll.
Does Nox need to do a reforging?
No, because when you die, you die. It's only the
Gotcha.
Stormcast Eternals who are continually reborn. A 2. So this is a short-term goal. If you achieve this is something you get XP for. The XP system in the game is extremely goal-oriented. So the short-term goal for you is determine which mortals are the most powerful wherever you're residing. Perhaps they can turn into allies. Do you want me to read that again, or you got that? I'll do it anyway. Just out of the bonus. Determine which mortals are the most powerful wherever you're residing. Perhaps they can turn into allies.
I got it.
And then for Stormcast Eternal, Alicia, give us a D6 roll. 4. Help a common mortal with an everyday task. Show them the righteous should not fear the Stormcast. So, do you need me to read that again, or you got that?
Nope, I think I got it.
Got it, okay. And then your long-term goals. Each of you has individual long-term goals, and then as a party, you will also have long-term goals. You are a member of the Free People's Nox. Give us a D6 roll, please. 6. You keep humble ambitions of power. You intend to achieve rulership over a free guild, have heraldry made your image, and lead from noble comfort. So perhaps that bloody thing of vengeance you burned across 8 realms was in service to your own edification, although maybe there's some other reason. And that can shift as well. Like, these are just starting points and suggestions. Alicia, give us a D6 roll. 2. You hope to establish a system of fail-safes so you're always able to remember and appreciate who you are, no matter what memories a reforging may steal. Because that is one unfair aspect of it. It is uncertain how much you might remember from your previous reforgings.
Cool.
Okay, and that... Now, John, you had an idea for the tattoo.
Yes, I think after Nox learned how often Alicia's been reforged, and he has his connection to the Soulfire in the group, he tried to devise a means of crafting a means to link Alicia to his access to the Soulfire. It didn't work naturally, but maybe they got a tattoo of the Dwarven god in order to make a link between themselves.
Wait, you got a tattoo of Grungni?
Yeah. And it failed spectacularly, but
Yep.
Okay. So you guys
She probably would have had to be drunk to agree to that, but that's okay.
yeah.
You know, one of the upsides is that the
Probably more of a brand.
yeah, and I mean the Sigmar has traditionally been an ally of the Dwarven as well. So having a symbol of one of their gods is not necessarily I mean, Sigmar has a symbol of a hammer, typically as his holy symbol, as does Grungni. So it's very easy to have one and have double meaning to it. All right, so that was a connection of Alicia to Nox. Now let's roll for Nox to Alicia. Would you each give us a D6 roll, please? 2 and a 6. Nox, Alicia punched you in the jaw once, then you woke up a few hours later. What do you think the circumstances of that were?
Maybe his response to the brand that I gave her.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely possible as well, but this is also an opportunity to fill in another, important incident between the characters.
Sorry, can you repeat that again? There was a noise outside the door that
No
I got
problem.
distracted by.
So Leisha punched Nox in the jaw once, and then Nox woke up a few hours later.
I see.
And it's important. The tattoo is the connection that Leisha has to Nox. So that's sort of you would interpret that as what value what she thinks of when she thinks of Nox. This is Nox's connection to Leisha. So this is more a matter.
I'll let Leisha decide that one since I picked the tattoo. So
I need to think about that one.
Is there something he might do or say that would cause you to do that?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe he made a comment about. I don't like so when they're reborn or reforged, are they? Is it obviously the same person, or is it like literally? Could she have been like a completely different person in the past that she has the memories for?
That's a good question. So you wouldn't have memories from someone else because it's your soul that is being reforged. But there's nothing to say that like you may have been reforged and then there's a previous life that you didn't have the memories of last time, but then they now have resurfaced.
I guess I'm asking, like, would she have always been Leisha, or would she have been?
That is a very good question that the Stormcast Eternals suffer with.
Okay, so I guess where I'm trying to go with this is like maybe Nox said something about a former incarnation of herself.
It could be if you spent decades or a decade wandering in the wastes. May I make a suggestion?
Yeah, sure.
You may not even know why. Yeah. What if he said something or did something, you fucking socked him, and then we're like, why the fuck did I feel that way? You may still have an emotional connection to it, but not have the memory of what it is that actually triggered that.
That's sort of what I was thinking about. Yeah,
maybe it was Nox said something negative about one of her previous incarnations, not aware that it was that, and that part just manifested.
I think you don't even need to have it about her specifically, because like it could be something you just don't know. It's like the sort of like, reincarnative PTSD is a key part of kind of these characters. Neither of you may have any idea what it is that triggered him. It may not have been Nox saying something about her specifically, because typically the Stormcast Turtles wear masks too. Like they look like, they look quite similar when they're in their armor.
Okay.
Nox may have said some denigrating thing about maybe some town or something like that, like something that's seemingly innocuous, and then the next thing you know, you're waking up hours later with an incredibly sore jaw. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like maybe he was talking about some negative comment about a town of Hicks or something, and it was like a town like she spent a lot of time trying to help.
Yeah, she may have died to a chaos horde trying to save it right before she was pulled back to the anvil of apotheosis. And then Nox would have no idea of like what the and this may be also why it's important to him, right? Is you realizing like she is much older than she looks, and there's there's a deep well of danger there for being flippant.
Yep.
Does that work for you guys?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So then let's roll for your connection to Malgra as well. So Leisha, would you give us a 2d6 roll, and Nox give us a 2d6 roll? We can do this at the same time. Okay, Nox, 2 and a 4 are Ooh. So, Nox, you and Malgra have a song you sing, and no one else appreciates the lyrics.
Diggy hole, diggy, diggy hole.
And Leisha, 4 and a 5. Ooh. You saw Malgra die. Now, whether that's literally, figuratively, in your dream, in a previous life, whatever, however you want to interpret that, but you saw Malgra die, and Nox and Malgra, you have a song you sing and no one else appreciates the lyrics.
Yeah, mostly because we're drunk and bellowing at the top of our lungs.
That's interesting, too, because I will tell you, Malgra comes from a fairly unique background, because the song that she sings, that you sings with you, is actually not a Dwarden song, not in Khazalid, the language of the Dwarden. It is, in fact, something in the language of the Sylvaneth. And I'll show you what the Sylvaneth are. They are a species or an ancestry unique to the Age of Sigmar setting. These are the Sylvaneth.
That's cool. I love the plant people races.
Yep. The Sylvaneth are a player character race in this. They can be soulbound, and they have some pretty awesome... When I briefly thought about making versions of Falcaril in this, it would be as a Sylvaneth, because they can shape their arms into like bows for some of them. And
either a owl or a hawk is, tiny world of asshole.
So the Malgra knows a fair bit of songs. Like, a lot of the songs that she grew up with are the Sylvaneth songs. So that may be the thing that you. So it's not the typical, Dwarden or Khazalid, songs or bar songs you might think. It's something a little more lyrical, perhaps. Okay. Then those are our soulbound heroes. And so let's talk about where our adventure starts. I'll get rid of her engineer's rig there. So our story starts in the city of Brightspear. This, guys, is what Brightspear looks like. It is so called because of, obviously, the soaring tower that goes above. And let me give you some other background. I'm going to get rid of these here. Oops, layer. Madison. There we go. So, Brightspear. Where on earth is my thing here? Here we go. And Brightspear is the newest of the cities of Sigmar, a bastion of light and civilization in a world filled with violence and horror. Brightspear was the new name for a city that has stood for centuries, founded by the ancient Agla-Raxian Empire in the region now called Asperia. The city is built atop a sprawling underground complex, an Agla-Raxian citadel city created to shelter the ancient people and withstand cataclysmic events, or so that is what the Agla-Raxians claimed. The citadels were created as shelters, true, but they were also a sanctuary where mages of the Agla-Raxian Empire could conduct their strange experiments in secret. There are rumors of dozens more of these citadels in Asperia, and that each is connected, but as yet, no one has been able to find them. When the Age of Chaos struck, the ruinous powers unleashed their hordes of demons and abominations on the mortal realms. Neither the Agla-Raxians nor their citadel were prepared for the assault. A rift in reality tore open off the coast, one that led to the realm of chaos and the domain of Tzeentch, the Changer of Ways. Hordes of screaming demons and abominations flooded through and assaulted the city. The city fell, and its people were slaughtered or turned to serve the Changer of Ways. For centuries, mortals and demonic servants of Tzeentch inhabited the city, twisting and reshaping the city's spires while plumbing the depths of the citadel below. Arcanites, the servants of Tzeentch, continued the Aglaraxian experiments below the city, continuing the pushing boundaries further than even the Aglaraxians dared. Beyond the walls, the swirling vortex of purple and pink off the coast began to grow. The very shores of Asperia began to disintegrate and fall into the realm of chaos. Ships sailing the seas would be helplessly dragged into the domain of Tzeentch as their crew screamed and cried out in vain. The occupation ended when Sigmar directed the Celestial Warbringers, a host of Stormcast Eternals, Sigmar's most elite warriors who can foresee their own death, to retake the city. The Warbringers struck like a thunderbolt at the heart of the city, shattering Tzeentchian forces. The prescience of the Celestial Warbringers confounded Tzeentch's followers, and they were eventually driven from the city or fled below into the hidden parts of the citadel. The Warbringers were victorious, and the city was reclaimed. It was renamed Brightspear, so called for the towering beacon at its heart and for the storm host that freed it, who are sometimes known as Sigmar's Spear. With that, a new city of Sigmar was born. With the city reclaimed, settlers followed. Unlike most cities of Sigmar, which are constructed anew around a recaptured realm gate, Brightspear seemingly had no realm gate, and the city was already built. What was found afterwards, however, is that there is actually a fluctuating realm gate, one that can access any of the mortal realms. So Brightspear is an extremely attractive tactical location. If you want to see what the scenes of this city are kind of like in Brightspear, this is a map of it to give you a sense of, let's get that fucker out of the way. Out of the way, pal. That is a map of Brightspear, an idea of the verticality of the city. A view from the streets. And from the shadows under one of the upper tiers. When you build an upper tier over a lower city, it tends to cast shadows, and in those there are some folks who get up to no good. And then, of course, here's a view of the realm gate itself. Now, you guys, as part of your binding, have been in somewhere in Brightspear. When you guys, we're not going to engage with the downtime rules per se for this, but what do you think that your characters get up to when they have some free time? And I mean, apart from practicing your skills and things like that, like, we'll assume that your training is going to be part of the downtime stuff, but for what it is your own time, what is it that you guys get up to?
Well, so go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so in general, Brightspear, I'm trying to look at some of her motivations and whatnot. The folks in... one of her things was to help a common mortal with tasks, teach them not to fear storm eternals. Yep. Would Brightspear be probably less folks like that? Because I'm assuming... I don't know much about like the makeup of Brightspear, so like.
No, so that's a good. Even though you guys are quite powerful, and there are the Stormcast Eternals. One of the things that is so let me step back. I'll tell you, like, one of the things I had a challenge with getting into the game and getting my head into the setting is it's really hard to for me, it was hard initially to picture, like, well, what is an average town like? Like, do you go to a pub? Do you go to whatever? So there is a lot of magical technology thanks to the Karazdren engineers. So there can be quite a bit of kind of steampunky stuff in here. If you're familiar with Eberron, there's probably a same level of kind of tech that's like that. But there are, one of the things that is very much true about it, the average person is still who is, populates the vast majority of this city. Humans, Dwarden, elves, Sylvaneth, all who are going about their everyday, lives. There are people who, open businesses, and people who get married, and people who, envy their neighbors, or people who, have crushes on people in school, or all the different, varieties of human dynamics that exist in any, the real world or in any other kind of fictional setting that exists here as well. So, there are folks who work in guilds. There are people who, work in the written word is a thing in the setting as well. So, and this is a relatively new city. So you can imagine that kind of post-war optimism that would be in part of this, as well as the permeating sense of loss. Because while Brightspear has been reclaimed, in the catacombs that go, or the citadels beneath Brightspear, there are still these agents of chaos and the cults of the Changers of Ways, as well as other forces inimical to the forces of order, like the Agents of Death and Nagash, and the Agents of Destruction, the Orcs and the Orogs and things like that. They're still threatening the city. So maybe a more optimistic kind of post-war Berlin might be a good vibe for what to expect among the populace there.
Okay. So I think, and you said that this is not where we normally are. We have just arrived here, or
this is probably where you are situated for now. You are typically you might be tasked with you're kind of, the bindings can be set for a variety of different purposes, and yours it seems was to seek out some kind of artifact of myth. Relic from the age of myth, I should say.
So I think there's probably the main thing she does. Like if this is over around, if she's able to set up like kind of a schedule, like what she does on the days or whatnot, she probably gets up. She probably goes to whatever passes for a library in this town, and she's researching the myth, but she's also keeping an eye out for things related to, the fail-safes that she wants to create so that she can remember her previous reforgings.
Yeah.
So maybe she spends some time on that. If she hits a brick wall, like she's not making any progress, she switches to that.
Okay.
But on the way, she tries, like on the way there or on the way back, she tries to find somebody who's maybe having some difficulty carrying something, cleaning something, fixing something, and just tries to help them out.
Sure.
Just, regular person. So,
yeah, and like the Stormcast Eternals are very, they're again, like they're the pejorative term for them when they were initially, when Age of Sigmar first came out, was the Sigmarines. So they're kind of like, 7 foot tall, massive, obviously non-human or augmented human, like the way Space Marines are. Yep. Who do you think the person is that you help? Is it is this like, someone with a broken, wheel and a wagon where you're going to pick it up so you can help get the axle back on, or? Yeah,
that sounds like a good idea. And the other thing she would do during that, if it's not a gauche, or, if it would get her in trouble with other Eternals, would be to remove her mask when she does that.
Definitely.
So that the person can see. Yeah. So that the person can see that she's just a person underneath of it.
Absolutely. So, and the one thing I looked up, like they don't eat quite as much as humans, but like they still enjoy drinks and enjoy music and have pastimes and things like that. Like the Stormcast Eternals are still very much human beings, just ones who are very devout and who are supernaturally linked to a god who is manifest in flesh, right? Like you've met Sigmar, this isn't a matter of like, I have faith in an almighty, unknown and unknowable being. Like, no, you can see Sigmar, you can be in his presence.
Right. Yes, and she doesn't need to. She doesn't need to proselytize or anything. Her whole goal is not to talk about Sigmar. Her whole goal is just to help somebody.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Yep.
So there is someone, you're maybe coming back with a collection of scrolls that you have borrowed. I think there is a library in Bright Spear as well.
Yep.
If I recall, the upper tier. Let's see. High Devil Sigmar is up there. The Portentarium is up there. I'm a sucker for a good portmanteau, so. The Domini University is on the lower tier at. So it'll be. Where is it? Oh, it's right here. So under the shade that we had talked about, and let me just give you a little further info. No, where's it? Lower tier. In the starter set, one of the things that Cubicle 7 does really well, or did really well with at least the Warhammer Fantasy 4th and the Age of Sigmar one, is like there's reasons to buy the starter set beyond just like wanting to try out the game, because they have the setting for Bright Spear. The city guide is in the Age of Sigmar one, which I really like. They do that for Ubersreich in Age of or in Warhammer Fantasy. Okay, Domini University, a sprawling campus around the edge of the lower tier and spreading into the new city. Domini University exists literally in the shadow of the Collegiate Arcane. The Academy specializes in the history of the ancient Aglaraxians. In practice, this means magic, since mystical power fueled all of the Arc Domini's greatest achievements. The city's historians stockpile any Aglaraxian artifacts here, hidden from the city's leadership to prevent their confiscation. The university's dean, Malthus Arain, let's hear, has courted Asperian bright mages who refuse to bend a knee to the Azurite College Arcane. Many of them disillusioned with the globe of the Bright College, the globe of the Bright College remains scarred by Zinchian warp fire. The dean makes little secret of his disdain for the trinket mage, Amard. So there's some tension between the Azirian school of magic here and the fact that the Bright School that you would study, Nox, has not been restored.
Well,
so that is probably where you were helping them. Is it in the lower tier or the in the new city? Do you think that you came across as people? It would just mean whether you would still be under the shadow of the upper tier, or whether you would be out in the light of Akshi and the Great Parch.
Maybe the latter. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So this person is sort of stumbling and trying to get, like, two folks are trying to, like, no, you've got to push it up higher. Come on, we've got to get this. Yep. And then there's suddenly, Leisha is there, and they look up, and you're gleaming armor caught in the light of Akshi.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you need some help? And
they look, my lady, we're.
And as soon as she hears my lady, she pulls the mask off, and she says, "No need for that. I'm just a person."
Okay. So why don't you give us a might check?
Yeah,
please. Difficulty will be 3. You only need 1 success here.
Oh, I have nothing in that. Okay.
Which means you'll be rolling just your body. It'll roll it for you. No penalty.
What's the target number?
Target number is 3.
Okay.
Beautiful. So, what does it look like?
One-handed.
Yeah. Well, with just matching it, she probably puts both hands under it, and she's like, "Oh, this is a little heavy. I can see why you guys had a."
The results, just so you can, we're reading the results. The results is how many successes you got.
Oh, okay.
Right? So you only needed 1. You got 2 excess, which means you might do this faster.
Okay.
You might do this.
Okay, got it.
with more flourish.
Yeah, she doesn't feel like showing off or anything for it. So she reaches down and maybe like one hand starts to lift it, and then kind of to not overawe them, she brings the other hand up and lifts it, even though she could have done it very easily with just one.
Okay.
And she
So
said,
pull it up.
Yeah, she's like, boy, this is a heavy thing here.
The two of them very quickly snap to, and they manage to get the wheel back on, and then they are, as soon as it's secured, they let go. They are well and truly grateful for your assistance with this. And it seems like there is some looky-loos who are watching and kind of whispering, like, what's going on here?
Yeah. And she just, she says, I hope the rest of your day goes more smoothly than the first part did.
They will, thanks to you, my... Ma'am.
Yeah. And she says, Leisha. And then... And she makes sure to get their names. She's like, she wants, and then says, thank you for your service to the city. And she turns and starts to head back in the direction she was going.
And towering over there, you can see there's a lot of, smiling people. You've left a very, very good impression and represented Sigmar very well. Now, what about Nox? What does Nox do with his downtime?
Well, kind of a little similar to Alicia, pursuing his own short-term and long-term goals. For one, being just so forged by the god of the forge, the Grungi.
Yeah.
Grungni? Yeah, Grungni.
Grungni, yeah. I'll put it in chat.
So he's fascinated that the city itself is designed around like a clock face. So he's been making his days moving around, kind of looking at it and admiring it. While also visiting the library and the School of Mages, because it's somewhat related to him, and his goal is to learn who's in power, who's in charge, and what he can do to kind of get the academy back up to where it needs to be.
Yeah, so let's see here. So one of the things that's neat, you can see that the different tiers that are on there, those each represent one of the 8 mortal realms. I said 10 earlier, I'm mistaken. It's 8 mortal realms, and what happens is they sort of move around like a massive orrery, and that is part of how you're able to use the realm gates to access any of the mortal realms. That is a unique aspect of Brightspear that is not true anywhere else, at least nowhere known at present.
He just marvels at the just the design and everything, how it comes together. It's
the Aglaraxians, say what you will about them as people, they certainly had a mastery of magic. And I'm curious about that. Let's see here. So it'd be on the upper tier would be that College Arcane. Where is it here? Spear of Heaven, Potentium. There's the House of the Kindled Flame in the upper tier. Let's take a look and see what that is.
All things are coming up, Nox. Haha, fire.
Let's see here. Upper tier. Here. House of the Kindled Flame. Okay. So I'm just going to see what the House of Rising Embers is, because they talk about that. Okay, so the House of the Kindled Flame is located in the high tier, and Aspirians value mundane scholarship as highly as magic. The House of the Kindled Flame, founded by the Luminite scholar mage Sidriel Hallet, is a sibling institution to the famous House of Rising Embers in Lumnos. Rumor has it Sidrian was banished from the House of Rising Embers due to some academic schism, but Sidrian themselves claims they were motivated only by the desire to bring the light of learning to Brightspear. The Conclave was so enthusiastic about this new institution that they demolished a block of ancient city buildings to raise a campus. The House of Kindled Flame is crafted from the buildings that stood there before, built to better suit its purpose, with accommodations for its experienced students and staff, teaching rooms and laboratories, and a library larger than the Arbiter's Fortress. It's a city within a city. The library is far from full, however. Sidrian's top priority is adding ancient texts scavenged from the Undercity, copies of arcane works in the 9 globes, precious volumes from other cities, Dwarden and Elven libraries, or new research. Obtaining new text has forged strong links with the Collegiate Arcane and the Ironweld. The faculty have tenuous links with Dominion University, but mutual mistrust keeps them distant. So actually, that might be the place that you have been researching, Alicia, because that seems like a more,
Yeah, no, that does seem a little bit more along what she's looking for.
Also gives a tie-in where we meet almost on a daily basis.
Yep.
Yeah. And then there is, let's see here. The 9 globes is the sphere of Ori. Here we go. The perimeter of the upper tier is marked by vast spherical structures raised up by walkway armatures that connect back to the Citadel. One of those globes, representing the realm of chaos, was smashed asunder by the Celestial Warbringers, reducing it to shattered ruins. The 8 representations of the mortal realms still remain intact, formerly used by Agnoraxians as sanctuaries of occult lore, but now renovated by the Collegiate Arcane to form 8 colleges of magic. The colleges vary greatly in their state of repair. Magister Armad's Gold College, the first to organize in Brightspear, have fully restored the globe to its former glory, while the Lord Arcanum Gravewing personally intervened to help the Celestial College transform their top hemisphere into a gigantic planetarium. Meanwhile, the White College's globe has endured centuries of ill fortune since the fading of the beacon of Brightspear, and the Amethyst College still battles to repel the undead horrors that devastated it during the Necroquake. Every college is wary of lingering demonic influence, which invariably coalesces around any font of mystic power. Though the Teclian curriculum of the Collegiate Arcane often clashes with Asperian magical traditions, many Asperian mages choose to study at the colleges, each eager to catch up on centuries of progress made in Azir, while actually was embattled in the Age of Chaos. Other students, recently empowered by the Arcanum Optimar, seek only the fastest path to gain their spell hunter license, the better to get rich chasing endless spells born in the trials, a time of tribulations. So for the other reference they had there, it sounds like the Bright College has yet to rebuild. So I don't know if that is of interest to you at all, Nox, to try and take a role in rebuilding that or take a place in leading that.
For sure, yes. It's probably the best way for him to build his way up.
Okay. So forgive me, I interrupted. What was Nox doing with his downtime, do you think?
He's, aside from going around and getting ideas about the city, he is probably trying to build contacts in order to, construction workers, people who know how to repurpose the city. Basically, he's trying to make social connections.
Okay. To what end? Just to, in general, to make contacts, or?
Well, to help rebuild that particular school.
Okay.
Because he is looking for kind of like a seat of power and a way to lead his own faction.
Yeah, so one of the things that they talk about, they talked about the Asperians and the Azurites. Azir is the realm of light. It is where Sigmar dwells. It's where many people were safe during the Age of Chaos. And so there's people who are coming from there that are, it's not heaven, but it's kind of like that. Like, it's because there are, again, like normal people live there who are, jealous or, violent or whatever. So like, it's not a perfected place, but it is a much safer place than what Akshi has been. So part of it is the Azurite mages are coming down and trying to rebuild stuff here, while the locals are like, well, no, fuck you guys. Like, what did you do during the Age of Chaos? So there is inevitably going to be some tension there. You may be able to draw on, because this is the realm of Akshi, and in a place like Brightspear, remember that the bonus we were talking about the, you definitely get that bonus while in Brightspear.
Yeah, I think his goal there is to, because he's got this whole, like, he was forged in the fire battle of combat where, you know, he survived bloody battles, and now his existence is plagued with conflict.
Yeah.
So I think he's trying to either get a way of positioning himself to where he's can write it out or move past it. So that's why he's so focused on getting a seat of power.
Okay. So what you guys find? So you've been making allies among them. We'll deal with that in a second. We might actually take a look at the downtime thing. Let me grab a name here. There we go. No, I thought there were some sample names somewhere in here. Oh, here we go. Yep. Okay. So, Leisha, would you kindly give us a... actually, let me take a look at the downtime. We're going to use the downtime rules to sort of interpret what you guys just told us.
I'm looking through the skills list. I'm like, is there one for, like, diplomatic stuff? Or I know there's intimidation, but...
that would be... Let's see... So Guile is trying to force someone to just tricks people.
So
intimidation is trying to force people. Not directly, I don't see.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. Leave the actual diplomacy to roleplay.
Yeah. And let's see here. There are 2 adventures. Here we go. Okay, so you have from the people that you were trying to make contacts with, is it more like folks in the construction kind of field, or more like potential students who might join the college, or financiers who may want to, back the college? What are you thinking, Knox?
At this point, he's probably more in the construction realm, because that's where his, God of the Forge and whatnot, and because it has to be, you have to have that support before you can actually get the funding, and yeah,
that absolutely.
So I'm looking at a point
sense.
where he's just starting to get into it.
Sure. So then I think it would be let's see here, one of the things I have. Where is it here? Here we go. Here we go. The Ironweld Arsenal. Made up of both humans and Duarden, the Ironweld Arsenal are masters of engineering, whether it's making strange cogwork machines or devastating black powder weapons. Not only capable of producing weaponry, they have turned their hand to rebuilding the city following the Necro Quake. So do you think it's a human or a Duarden that you made a contact with?
Human, okay.
So then you have a human who is part of the Ironweld. I've already forgotten the name. Ironweld Arsenal? Yeah, Arsenal. There we go. I think it's Arsenal in the sense of the storage, like the naval storage kind of thing, more so than the more common weaponry vernacular. What this contact would allow you to do is you now have advantage to convince the contact to assist you or the party. What that means is it reduces the difficulty by 1. If the contact provides a service of some sort, such as a hireling, the cost per day is halved. And if you could help with an endeavor, such as a smith helping with repair equipment, their help grants 2 successes to your total number of successes for any extended tests. So you've managed to make some good contacts with the Ironweld Arsenal. And then for Lost Lore.
Lore is very interesting to Nox.
Yeah, so Leisha, here's what you've found. Is there was so prior to the Age of Chaos, there was something called the Khazalid Empire. It was the Empire of the Dwarden. It spread across the mortal realms and into various, realms. It collapsed during the Age of Chaos, and it led in part to not only refugees of Dwarden going elsewhere, but also to the emergence of the Caradhran engineers, who kind of lived on mountaintops and in their airships and stuff to be able to escape whatever was happening on the ground, and to the Fire Slayers, the ones who bound themselves with gold and such. But the Khazalid had a number. It's an artifact of the Khazalid Empire that you're actually looking for primarily. Something that you hope will be a great boon in the fight to reclaim the mortal realms. What you read about is a dwarven or a Dwarden ruler, a king of old, whose name was Rumnar Grundrak. I'll put that in chat for you. Rumnar Grimdrak. His people, he seemed to have this thing. Do you think the artifact you're looking for, is it a weapon? Is it a tool? Is it a defensive thing? Oh, you're muted, Robert.
Mo.
Yeah, to Mo.
Probably a defensive thing, or maybe even more maybe more of a purification thing, so that she can kind of start to help reclaim areas.
Yeah,
for
Sigmar. I love it. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Of like a forge of found futures, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Sounds cool.
So he and his people, apparently, when they fled, what you've read about is a place you had not heard of before. A place called Karaznethil. And the name itself is strange. Karaz or Karak is something that is not unusual for dwarves to use. Many places, Dwarden strongholds are called Karak something or other. Karaznethil, though, has most definitely a different aspect even just to the name. And it said that the refuge he took was there. Why don't you give us a lore check? And because you're accessing the library, let's bring that difficulty down to a 2.
Okay, and you said lore.
Yeah.
All right. Target DN2. Nope. Sorry, canceled rather than.
Nice.
2 successes. Huh?
Okay. So what you found is Karaznethil, the reason, I'll put it in chat. Here we go. The reason that Karaznethil is of particular interest is it is a place that King Rumnar was able to find refuge. The second half of the name is actually a Sylvaneth word. There is, when the demonic legions wiped out in the realm of Shaman, the realm of steel and metal, not steel, but metal. The shamanic Dwarden would likely have been entirely wiped out, along with King Rumnar's people, had it not been for the offer of an unlikely ally, a Sylvaneth king who had a place, a refuge called the Ironbark Glaive. Now, it's unusual to see Sylvaneth take root in a place like Shaman, but each of the realms, even though they have their flavoring to it, remember that in the shallow parts of those realms, they are closer to what you would expect of any other kind of like our world or the old world or whatnot. So, but they have a heavy influence. So trees may build, but they also may be infused with metal, or plants may have leaves that are almost like sheets of tin or blades of steel. Insects and other animals would likewise be infused with that kind of quality, the metal quality, the same way that Axian things may be infused with fire. The Sylvaneth in Ironbark Glade opened their thorn-shrouded labyrinths to the Dwarden refugees, and it's said that the Dwarden, from that time, the early years of the Age of Chaos, took refuge and became kin to the Sylvaneth. And as such, the two peoples became one. And where once there was the Ironbark Glade, there is now Karaznethil, a place where both of the peoples adopted each other's customs. So you would have Dwarden, who may be skilled in tending elaborate gardens, and you would find Sylvaneth, who like grousing and complaining about things. In addition to whatever magical backgrounds that the Sylvaneth have, and their connection to Alariel, who is their goddess, they also have the lore of the Dwarden of the Khazalid Empire, and it's said that King Rumnar brought the Forge of Found Futures to Karaznethil.
Hey, very cool.
Now you have, only one success was to get that basic information about Karaznethil. You can also ask me a question if you'd like some more information.
Yeah, the last So is the location is not given of Karaznethil?
If you wish, it is. Yeah, it is located in Shaman, but like
Shaman.
in the realm of Shaman, it has a. Let's see here. It is said to be only accessible through air, and then you're able to access the forest surrounding Karaznethil. Karaznethil is, let's see here. There was a really cool description of it I was reading last night. Let me see if I can find it here. So it is located on one of the floating, effective like islands in one part of Shaman, where rivers of quicksilver run down peaks, drop off into space, and then will flow back up into another location. So there's a number of ways you can get there. If you can travel across those quicksilver peaks once traveling to Shaman, then you can access it that way. But there are also legends of the when they became established, the Caradron overlords, the Dwarden who operate flying steamships like let me show you here. Here's an example of the airships of the Karazdrethil overlords. Not for nothing, Malgra comes from the overlords. So that's what an airship looks like, guys.
Cool.
And then the Endrinir's rig that they wear, they allow them to fly. So you can imagine these things going in and a bunch of flying Dwarden coming out to face the whatever, their adversaries may be.
Yeah, the setting's so cool.
It's a really neat setting, yeah.
Yes.
So that would be how you could access it. Is one, if you could travel to Shaman and to a region near there, and then basically make your way up towards it. That seems to be one way it has been historically accessed. The other way is through the Karazdrethil Overseers. They have locations nearby in Shaman. One of the things they do is they mine basically the air, the motes and aspects of metal that drift in the air in Shaman on the wind. They'll drift into them, capture those materials, and then use them to forge things or sell the materials.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what you've heard. And another thing I will tell you for free. Strange that there's a reference to Karaznethil in here, because now that you've turned your mind towards this place, do you remember we mentioned that Malgra and Nox have a song that they share that doesn't necessarily or they enjoy that doesn't necessarily only involve Kazalid, the dwarven tongue?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually the Sylvaneth language that is also infused in that.
Okay.
You don't know anything about it. Perhaps Malgra may have a more strong connection to Karaznethil than you realize.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been the fruits of your research thus far. And Nox, you have made some connection to the arsenal, Ironweld Arsenal. So you've got, in the course of your recent time spent back in Brightspear, this is, you've got some helpful connections to those folks. Why don't we take we're really late on this, but why don't we take our mid-session break right now, just so we can refresh coffees, take a bio break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what you guys talk about when you bring this information back. Okay? So for those listening at home, we'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hey, everybody in chat. Hey, George. Hope you are having a great day in Scotland. And let's see here. What do I need to get ready? Nothing right now. For those listening at home, I tell you, I had a thing planned out to do, some combat and whatever else in this. I'm really glad I decided to just go with where the character creation and discussion of the setting and the characters goes instead. That's sometimes a more fun way to explore a setting than just, setting up combat and seeing how a fight plays out. I agree with John, too. It's such an interesting setting. The source book that we're using, incidentally, for this is the Brightspear City Guide. Is from the starter set from Soulbound. The starter set is quite good as far as having. There's a good adventure in it, and then the setting material is certainly more repeatable, and you can use it for more than just the. Once you've played through the adventure, you never touch it again, the way it is with some starter sets. This actually has also really cool. You can see on the screen, there's this guy here, which is the setting for, or the player map that doesn't have locations on it, but the GM's version has the guide for all the different places in there. And there's really helpful stuff beyond just having to look at all the different locations. They also have a really good guide that just gives you hints. Like if you're looking for, say, landmarks, there's a list of landmarks. If you're looking for a market, there's a list of markets. Places of worship, similar. So John's talking to the folks at home about the content of the starter set and what we're making use of today.
It's like, oh, Kev's talking. He's not senile yet. He must be talking to the audience.
No. Yeah. I hate dead air, and so if I can give some background or information, I'll do so. So what do you think Nox is... how is Nox feeling having been bound to Grungnir, anyway?
I think it's not so much as like dislike or like, it's just a fact of reality, and he's just using that as his motivation for what he does in this life. So, I mean, he's been forged in battle and whatnot, and it's just kind of become who he is.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the human forged by a dwarven god.
Yeah.
It makes him kind of unique.
Absolutely, yeah.
He's gonna seize onto that and, use it as a springboard towards future power.
Okay.
I'm trying to decide, because I'm aware of how George plays Nox in other campaigns. He's got all those intentions of being good, but he's always got that draw of power that kind of pulls him to the side a bit. So that's how I'm playing him.
Okay. So, where do you think you guys are staying in Brightspear? Do you think you guys are staying in like an inn or something like that? One thing maybe to talk about is the currency in the realm. So you'll notice that you've got on your character sheet something called drops on there, and there's a reference to Aqua Garanis. There's like drops, files, and I can't remember what the third one is.
Spheres.
Spheres, yeah. So what Aqua Garanis is a magical distillation from the realm of Garan. Garan is the realm of life. It's what is it here? Realm of life. Oh, I got it right. Known as the Jade Kingdom, is burgeoning with all forms of life. Aqua Garanis is just a helpful way of one of the many currencies that you can use across the different realms, but it has a secondary benefit for a lot of folks because it can be used to purify things. So you can, if things are tainted by chaos or whatnot, or on death, it can be used to purify. It can also be used to heal. Each drop of Aqua Garanis that you consume restores 1 toughness.
Currency that can also be used to heal a character. Now that's an interesting concept.
Yep. And it can be, I think it is 10 drops make a file and 10 files make a sphere, I believe. And I'm trying to think if there's other uses for it. Let me see here. Aqua Garanis is but one of the... Yeah, I got that right. 10 and 10. So a sphere of Aqua Garanis can purify the land in a zone. This uses abstracted zones the way that, like, Fantasy Flight Star Wars or the 2D20 games do. A sphere of Aqua Garanis can be used to accelerate growth in a zone per the Life Bloom spell, and you can consume it. Each drop of Aqua Garanis restores 1 toughness, a file restores 10 toughness, and removes 1 condition. A sphere restores all toughness, removes all conditions, and allows you to clear 1 space on the wound track. So that is there. Each of the different realms has its own kind of natural, accumulated magical substance that can be used for different things, temporary or permanent too. So there's a lot of neat stuff. There's actually an entire source book that is about like artifacts and crafting using alchemy and using the different things. So a lot of neat stuff to do during downtime and whatnot. But where do you think you're staying? Are you staying in? You would have, I mentioned the currency because you still have to pay for stuff, right? So, like, you're not staying at the. You are tasked, but you're expected to sort of take care of yourself. You may have temporary lodgings here in an inn or a tavern, or you may think you may own something here. Alicia, you may be staying in the barracks for the Stormhost. What do you guys think?
I'm thinking Knox would be either on his way or have just gotten to the point of permanent residency, like he's paying as he goes for a piece of property, or basically sinking his finances into getting a spot here.
Okay.
It's not important exactly where it is, but probably close to the shaded area near some construction workers.
Okay.
And I think Leisha would probably be with the barracks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that the Stormhost do, or it's what I read about, the Stormcast Eternals will often personalize their space, though, to try. And this is part of that. And in particular, if you are trying to like maintain continuity across reforgings, then there may be some other added, tchotchkes or accoutrement that you've got in your room to try and help with that stuff.
Yep.
Okay. And then Malgra will be staying likely somewhere else. So where would you and Knox be meeting up to talk about, maybe the progress of your research? Do you guys meet at a, cafe? Is there a park that you meet up at to talk? Is there someone's house? Is there a bar?
Well, it does sound like we meet up at the, and I'm sorry, what was the name of the place that Knox was researching at?
Academy of Flame Cinders?
It is the...
We probably...
House of the Kindled Flame.
Yes.
I would say there is a pretty famous Dwarden bar as well. I remember this from another adventure. And given your connection to Grungmir, that might be a...
we would probably meet up there afterwards, because if we're both researching in the same spot, it'd be easy enough to, coordinate and then just quickly go there and have everything fresh in our minds as to what we learned.
There is a place called Lowstones in the lower tier. It's a tavern and attached hostel near the High Port. It's owned and operated by Gondar Lowstone, a Dwarden trader who's decided to semi-retire and make money selling services to anyone who comes through the city. His prices are low and his accommodations are Spartan, but since most Dwarden are quite comfortable sleeping on bare stone. He's since made improvements to cater to humans, elves, and Sylvaneth alike, but the hostel still retains its no expense spent atmosphere despite being clean and dry. That'd be the more safe, I guess, or cheap place. There is also the Gatewatch Inn, which is... right here. Gatewatch Inn, positioned as the first stop through Brightspear's main gate, the bright red shutters and roof of the Gatewatch Inn are synonymous with affordable and functional lodging. The rooms are small, the beds are stiff, and the stew dinner is unimaginative, but the Guardbold family keeps the place safe, clean, and tidy, and their wholesome efforts to provide great service ensure an ongoing flow of repeat customers more than the overworked innkeepers can comfortably manage. The human owners, Irana, Merlon, and Yarda Guardbold, run the business with their clan of children. They were among the earliest Asperian settlers in Brightspear, surviving the necroquake by the grace of Sigmar, and reconstructed their devastated inn in the aftermath. Important folks called in favors to help the Guardbolds rebuild, for despite the inn's humble appearance, it has hosted many great heroes over the years, grateful for any port in a storm. If the Gatewatch Inn has any special features besides price, it is reputation. The acquaintance of other lodgers is a good way to stay abreast of local politics and learn of new opportunities. Do either of those particularly appeal to you guys?
I mean, I could see us bouncing between them, but what do you think? Like maybe we started trying a few of them. Which one do you think we settled on, John?
I'm always going for the low cost area with the the cheaper the drinks, the better.
Yeah.
So Lowstones is likely the cheaper of the two.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm sleeping there.
So.
Okay.
No, I think Alicia would be fine with that. Yeah.
Okay.
And if we were trying to impress somebody else, we'll meet at another spot. So
and you're also trying to exchange information here more so than trying to gather information.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you go into Lowstones, and again, like it has a distinctly Dwarden vibe to the place. There are likely some other Dwarden who are in there as well as some more pragmatic-minded humans. I think, Leisha, you were likely the first to arrive before Nox because you were on the lower tier before, and Nox would have to transition between the two.
Uh-huh.
When you both arrive, is this a typical meeting for you guys, or is this something that you have specifically planned, or do you guys usually when you're in town you meet up once every couple of days?
Thinking every couple of days would probably be a good thing.
Yeah.
Like every third day.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So Alicia has one of the very affordable but flavorless beers in a stein before her, a modest meal, and when you walk in, are you meeting up with Malgra as well, or are you going to bring Malgra information once you've got some? Do you think?
I probably don't try to bother Malgra often, and if we do meet with her, it's probably at a nicer spot.
Okay.
So we're probably just here to exchange info and see if it's worth getting hold of Malgra.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, what happens once Nox arrives?
Alicia already has maybe already knows what kind of appetizer or something he wants to start with, or what his normal beer is, so that's on the table ready for him.
Okay.
Nox likes all things hot and spicy.
Yeah. So
there's actually, in one of the other adventures, to give you there's a thing called an action handshake, which is the Age of Sigmar equivalent of a Molotov cocktail.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's perhaps a spicy brandy from one of the local, somewhere else in the Parch where they have vineyards. It's got definitely a more pronounced spice or flavor to it than what your average brandy does. And Char, do you like your meat well done as well, Nox? Is everything flame with you, or?
I think charcoal is pretty much the best description, at least on the outside.
All right. So when you come in, you've got Alicia has ordered for you. What happens next, guys?
And Nox will just slump in the chair and lean back and rub his temples and says, I prefer working with the construction folk. At least they can get hot-headed and duke things out. These politicians. Find anything of note?
First she says, I completely agree with that. And then she kind of pulls out the information that she had found. And actually, her first question is, can you sing that song of yours that you and Malgra are always singing together? Which is the first time she's ever even, usually it's she completely tunes you out or even makes noises she wants you to stop.
Kind of raises eyebrows. It's kind of like a duet. You're missing half of the meaning if the other party's not here, but he'll kind of hum it out a bit for her.
No, I need. Well, and she says the humming at least is reminding her of what the words are on either side.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
She's like,
Give us, Nox, would you give us an entertain check, please?
Yes, and there's a reason he does this poorly.
Oh, difficulty will be a 4.
Yeah. But apparently he's on the tune this time.
Okay.
yeah. So she's nodding her head. She's listening. She says, "Well, that was."
Yes, wow.
Yeah.
It's easier to sing without her getting in the way.
She thinks about it for a second. She says, "But you know nothing about where that comes from. Maybe the origins of the song.
I know of the people who sing it in the language, but not the origins of."
She says so. Then she goes into talking about the. She's describes why she was interested, which was that she learned about this place, and I wrote everything down. And actually, what's fun, Kev, is that I realized that I can understand the spelling of this. I got all my spelling right.
Nice.
This before we even put it in chat.
Awesome.
So maybe I should really be playing Warhammer more. So he tells Nox, or she tells
So
Nox.
what does she do?
that-
Let's role play this up. What does she say?
Okay. Yeah, she says, so I found about this place, this Karaznethil. It's like, I've never heard of it before, and she kind of glances at Nox to see if there's any recognition.
Nox, why don't you give us a lore check? I think we'll set this one at a difficulty of 5.
Okay.
And I think it's got a threshold of it's a challenge rating of 2.
So DN of 5?
Yeah, DN of 5. Yeah, you need 2 successes.
Okay. And lore bonus is fine.
Okay. So Karaznethil, everything that I've told you thus far about the refuge shared by the Sylvaneth and the Dwarden and the unusual arrangement between the two, what you also know is that the most recent what you've heard is that the current rulers of them are King, I believe it's King Adagrim, or maybe Thane Adagrim. Hold on here. Warden King Adagrim and Tree Lord Grundilac. I'll put those in chat. Again, I know we all went to high school with a Grundilac, but you know, different spellings. So Tree Lord Grundilac and Warden King Adagrim. Karaznethil has traditionally had a shared monarchy, a representation of the two people who are one. They have two monarchs who rule the place. Unlike anywhere else in the mortal realms, you could not think of more, like on the surface level, you could not think of a more different people than the Sylvaneth, who were grown from soul pods, and the Dwarden, who are more inclined to work with metal and deep in the earth, or in the air in the Karajan overlords case.
Interesting.
So then Alicia says, and she relays the history that she learned, which was that the ancient king and his people were brought in by the ancient ruler of the Sylvaneth, and they more or less became one people and almost indistinguishable in customs from each other. Obviously you would still have some Dwarden doing the standard crafting and everything, but just as equally you find them tending gardens and whatnot. But the thing that led me to this was and I'm finding my notes again. The Forge of Found Futures, and it appears to have a connection with a way to remove corruption in an area, and what intrigued me about that is to maybe reclaim some more land for Sigmar. from the war.
Yes. Such a thing would be a great boon. Do you think these people might be a link to it?
That was apparently so the Dwarven King, Grimdrak. He was the one who owned it, or maybe not owned it, but it was part of his peoples, and they were the ones who moved to Karaznethil, so it may still be there, or at least they might know where it is.
Okay.
And Kev, so the fact that the place is still there, did it exist before the war? Yeah.
Before the Age of Chaos began, it was the Ironbark Glade then.
Yeah. Okay.
A separate, a community of Sylvaneth who had made their home in Shaman.
Yeah. And the fact that this, and she's just kind of riffing a bit. She's like, and the fact that this place still exists, and apparently relatively the same state, maybe that forge is what's protecting them, or one of the things that they have that help protect them. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Kev. But
no, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, yeah.
Seems your day was much more productive than mine. I managed to get a contact to help with anything we need forged or built or modified.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe we should let Malgra know of this. She's more knowledgeable about these people than myself.
That sounds good to me. And she drains the beer in front of her. But first, let's get some food in our bellies, because Malgra can talk up a storm, and it might take a while before we see food again.
That is true.
So what else do you guys, is there anything else you guys chat about as far as your plans for this? To travel to Shaban, it does sound like you have a couple of options. You could travel over land. That might be dangerous. The fastest way is, to be honest, probably if the Karajan overlords regularly service Karaznethil, then you may be able to charter a ship and basically travel there.
Yeah, Nox always likes the view from the sky.
Yeah.
So that's his preferred way to travel, if at all possible.
Yeah, and Alicia would completely be on board with that. They look around for some scruffy bounty hunter. I mean, somebody with I'm assuming Malgra has those connections too.
Yeah. If she's definitely from the Karajan Overlord faction. If not to hire an entire steamship, you certainly could hire on. Though there is an entire source book on the steam vehicles and such. So
nice.
Yeah. Whether we have any air-to-air combat, we certainly have that.
Well, Nox is a walking artillery, so...
Yeah. So then, is there anything else you guys wish to talk about or discuss before we transition to when you're meeting up with Malgra?
I don't think so. Unless...
nothing more than just two characters catching up on, the last 3 days or so when they last talked.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Then, where do you think
I think Nox will try to convince her to get out of that barracks and get a place of her own.
Maybe
help her feel like
maybe next time we're through here.
Make you feel like more of a person than being just a soldier all the time.
Oh, my room has reminders enough of what I used to be, and not enough though. It has enough, but not enough. So, and
just imagine all the space. You could have more reminders.
Perhaps next time. But I think we have a place to visit.
So, where do you think you meet up with Malgra? Do you have a watering hole that she likes? Do you have do you go and visit her wherever she's staying?
I'd probably just go straight to her house.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
Right.
So I think she may have a... let's see here.
kind of picturing her a bit as having her own little business where she fixes up machines and
Yeah, I think it'll be in the new city, the part that's been rebuilt after the. Let's see here. I'm checking the places that are around in the lower tier. No, maybe it's in there actually. Yeah, because that's probably folks who need the assistance more so. So she is working somewhere in the lower tier where you go see here. So we actually can transition because I've got that awesome illustration. One thing I love about the Cubicle 7 products in general is a lot of the stuff they give great environmental art for it, which not, in fairness, like a lot of RPG publishers are getting better at that rather than just glamour shots of heroes. But this kind of stuff that sets the mood for the setting is so valuable for a GM.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that would weird me out, all that stuff right above me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with that, you guys make your way. You're also out of the light of Akshi too, Nox. So that as a bright wizard, perhaps that is a uncomfortable location to be.
Yeah, he might just go through the semi-conscious manner of just brightening himself up a bit with some of his magic, just to
not for nothing.
feel like there's some light.
What does your ghost light spell do?
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Go ahead and click that. Because it doesn't really like the dark as much. There we go.
Yeah, so it's ghost light that reflects your lore of magic. Yours is the bright lore of Akshi. So what do your lights look like?
Oh, it's definitely like forge reminiscent. Like it's little sparks that it's like continual kind of stuff, and the glowing of embers that just give a little orangish red tinge to things.
So with your focus, you could make that 3 successes. So it could be easy 3 hours of light. Okay. All right. Then you guys reach Malgra's workshop, and probably I'm picturing kind of a. Maybe like a 2-story building with a little kind of open area in front where, work forges maybe set there, and there may be some things she's tinkering, things you could not safely do indoors. And she steps out, and you can see, like, she's well tattooed. Does she have the same tattoo of Grungni that you guys do?
I would assume she would, yeah.
Okay. And tell us a bit about what do you picture in Malgra being like? Is she a typical kind of dour, Dewarden, cantankerous, or is she unlike her?
Because of the influence of the species. What is the name of it?
Sylvaneth.
Yeah, the Sylvaneth. She probably leans away from being dour, but she still likes getting down and dirty and grimy with fixing stuff.
Sure.
So she's not exactly Pippi Longstockings, but middle of the ground between dwarf and...
Yeah, so perhaps you hear her singing one of those songs that you and Nox, you two, kind of sing along when she's, idly kind of singing it away, and then she comes out carrying some tools, and there's a piece of machinery, and she looks up. Whoa! Hello, Nox, Leisha.
Nox will give her kind of like a half playful bow and say, Malgra, see you've been practicing.
Well, indeed, never a day's rest. Always more idle hands and all that. What brings you here?
News. Leisha brings news.
News, whether good or bad, is always best shared over a pint. So, and she gestures to a kind of a picnic bench type thing that's set out. Have a seat. I'll get drinks and be back.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys sit. She brings drinks back, sits down. Well, what news?
I assume these drinks are somewhat better than the ones we just had.
Most definitely. Yeah.
And Leisha looks over at Knox and says, so she starts going into the information that came and says that there's this artifact that I read across mention of that might be in Karaznethil called the.
So at the mention of that, why don't you guys each give us an awareness check against a difficulty of 3?
Awareness difficulty 3.
Wow. Nice job, Knox. And Leisha.
What makes sense? He's very He's very used to Malgra, so if she's displaying any kind of reaction to it, he picks up on it.
So what you guys can both see is that there's obviously she recognizes the name as soon as you mention Karaznethil, and Knox, I'd go so far as to say you see that there is. It has the look of. It has the look of like an old injury being touched. She has a look of pain in her face. She hides it quite well, so Alicia, you don't quite pick up on it. But she definitely knows what Karaznethil is, and Nox, it sounds like this might be not a pleasant association for her.
Yeah. Well, if she glances at Nox, she'll kind of catch like that little hint of compassion in his eyes as she can tell he can tell.
Okay.
He didn't try to hide that from her.
And she says, "All right, the tale of King Rumnar is, I know Karaznethil, and I'm familiar with the tale of King Rumnar. You say this forge of found futures, it's at Karaznethil."
That's what and she pauses. She says, "The king, Grimdrak,
yeah,
Grimdrak. When he led his people, so we know that, or I found out that he led his people to Karaznethil, and that prior to that, he had the Forge of Found Futures. It was part of his people's." Not stash, but it was an artifact that his people held, and I would assume that he would have brought it with, had they been able to, they would have brought it with them to Karaznethil.
Or if not, they would know where it was left when it fell to chaos.
Yes. Yeah.
I see. She seems a lot less excited by that information than what you would have expected her to be.
Yeah. And
then
Leisha doesn't remark on that. She knows that sometimes Malgra doesn't like to talk about things. She doesn't get, she didn't get the sense that Nox did as to why.
Yeah, absolutely.
But she's still not going to push on that.
So, Nox, you definitely do have the insight that this is... she seems to be struggling with processing the information and what the inevitable conclusion, which is we need to go there.
Yeah.
It almost seems like she's trying not to suggest that.
Yeah, Leisha does at least suggest that. She says, and we came here because we thought maybe we could find it sounds like getting to it by air is the best route, and she looks over at Nox and she says, I think we're in agreement that maybe we should go and
she looks up and she says,
find us.
Your sources that you read on Karaznethil, they're old, yes?
Yes. So
you do not know that Karaznethil fell to chaos. A recent development.
How recent?
Within the last 2 years.
Whoa.
This isn't going to be a very simple trip, is it?
I've only heard rumors. The Karazdran overlords still trade with the ones in Shaman near them. Still trade with the refugees who escaped. Actually, I don't think it's 2 years. I think it's within the last 6 months or 7 months. It's very recent that this has fallen. And she says, I don't know. The rumors are that Warden King Aedregrim in the Sentry Woods still keeps up a resistance. But from what I hear, there are fewer and fewer of my kin who will travel to the destination to deliver those supplies, and only do out of long-standing obligations of kinship and history. I've heard that Tree Lord Grundilac is dead, slain by the forces of corruption that took Karaznethil. You may not know, though I am from the... My father was an overlord. My mother is from Karaznethil. The loss...
Leisha puts a couple of things together, and if she pauses, as long as you did, she probably starts humming just a little bit of that song. That Knox. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You must understand that elsewhere, Sylvaneth may be seen as a different people, but to those of Karaznethil, the Sylvaneth and the Dwarden, they are one and the same. I've not seen it myself, but my mother told me the gates of Karaznethil, since the Dwarden came to Ironbark Glade and were first welcomed by their brothers and sisters, the gates have inscriptions, one in the Khazalid script of the Dwarden, one in the glyphs of the Sylvaneth. Those who seek shelter shall find it. It is the corrupting influence of the great unclean one, the ruinous power, Nurgle, that has infected Karaznethil. Grineer has tasked us with finding hope. And if hope is to be found in the Forge of Found Futures, then it could be found. Strange that fate would bring us back to the lands of my forefathers. Nox and Leisha, I don't think you've heard her talk about her... She's probably mentioned her family in passing before. Now that you think of it, she really hasn't talked an awful lot about her mother. if Warden King Aedra Grim and his folk still live, then the branch witches, rune priests, ranger snipers, and Kurnoth hunters, the survivors of Karaznethil, we could find allies in there.
They have this device that you seek, Alicia. They very well could have survived. I know it would be hard, Malgra, but do you think you're up for a trip back?
To meet the king of my mother? Oh, I would be up for this.
And at the very minimum, we got to burn our way through some chaos as we do it.
So you guys would know that there are, in the setting of the Age of Sigmar, there are actually 5 ruinous powers, 5 powers of chaos. Traditionally, in the other settings, there are 4. They are Nurgle, the god of pestilence and plague, Khorne, the god of aggression and war, Tzeentch, the god of magic and changing, and Slaanesh, the goddess of want, lust, and secrets. In the Age of Sigmar, all 4 of those chaos powers continued. A 5th one is the Great Horned Rat, who was formerly the god of just the rat folk. The oh gosh, how am I forgetting? They're one of my absolute favorites. The Skaven, the Ratmen. Yes. So there are 5 of these. Of these, each of them has their own way of corrupting and whatnot. Nurgle is through plague and corruption. So not only the corruption of the living ironbark and things like that, and the sickness of the creatures that are there, the tarnishing and the aging and desiccation of metal, likewise would be within the purview of his greater demons and such. So that is what you would be facing. But that is why you're soulbound. Mm-hmm. So Malgra says, then what do you think? I could make arrangements to arrange transport to Shaman and an airdrop into the Sentry Woods. The Sentry Woods before were not an easy place to navigate. There's a reason that it remained safe for so long. And with the corruption of the ruinous powers, it will be dangerous.
Alicia says, we have Sigmar on our side.
Just,
at least you do.
And Granir.
She says, I am here. Alicia says, I'm with you. Sigmar is with me.
Then, well, the task is before us then. I suppose I won't be finishing up this. She places down whatever device she was working on. I'll arrange for my things, and I will send word when we have transportation arranged. Anything else then?
Any advice on what we should prepare heading in that area aside from the basics? We've got think a few drops that I could spend.
Medicines. Their goal the persisting corruption of them. Ways of purging sickness and poisons. That would be best. And if we can spare, I think that the Warden King and his kin, whoever survives, further supplies would be of benefit. We may find more eager allies in there. Do you know where this forge might be found, or where they may have it?
I don't believe so. Kevin, maybe I didn't have it in my notes, but I didn't.
No, you didn't. No, unfortunately,
Okay.
your research didn't uncover that as of yet. But perhaps spending time.
Spend the next couple days before transport. Yeah. Between Nox and Leash, if we know what we're looking for.
Well, more so among the people, if there are survivors, assuming that there were survivors from Karaznethil, then finding, spending some time among them, that might help you figure out where you may need to go, and then what you may need to uncover. But what she can, if you ask anything about like what she knows or was told by her mother about Karaznethil, she could likely tell you some broad strokes of the place. So I'm just trying to see if I can share a map here. Yeah, I can with, so I'll just have to get you to ignore two things on here. But she'll sketch you out a rough map of what Karaznethil is laid out like. Here we go. So you can kind of think of this as almost a in a game mechanics term, it's almost like a point crawl where you're not doing a hex crawl. You're going from different location to different location. Ignore where Adagrim's camp is, and you can ignore the name Seeping Square. It would likely be called. Let's see here. What was the name before?
Dripping Downs. Gangrenous Gardens.
The Central Square.
Oh.
So the gates of first welcome are what she described, where there was those inscriptions in Khazalid and the Sylvaneth script that goes into the Central Square, where you can access the Song Forge, the Root Halls, which then lead down into the Mural Hall. The Stinger Spite Hives is something unique to Shaman as well. Imagine a metal-infused bee whose honey is infused with the power of Shaman and can harden bark or skin to have metal-like qualities. Too much would be poisonous and lead to transformation, but some of it can be used to be consumed and then have your flesh transformed. Mechanically,
Cybernetic. So we got cybernetic murder hornets that can make iron wood and steel fists.
Well, no, that's basically it. If they use the quicksilver honey that comes from these stinger spite hives, they can basically gain a point on armor by consuming this stuff. Living things can as well.
On one hand, dangerous thing. On the other hand, really cool thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
Too much of it is a potential poison, but if you only consume one, then for that day you increase your armor by 1.
I say we visit the hives.
And then there's, of course, the Lord's Hall and the Kaz Lamentiri. Kaz Lamentiri is a culmination of the connection between those two people, the joining of them as one brethren or one cohort. The Kaz Lamentiri is a place where the soul pods, where the Sylvaneth are born are watched over by the ancestors of the dwarves, the Dwarden. There are, and that is as much of a connection of the two cultures as you really could ask for. If they were to guess where this stuff might be stored, perhaps the Songforge, perhaps somewhere down in the Mural Hall, perhaps in a secret place in the Lord's Hall. But in any event, those are those where the sort of rough layout of Karaznethil is located. Anything you guys wish to do before you leave Malgra's place? Anything you wish to ask her?
For Nox, it's more of a curious thing about, what has she been working on lately? Does she need any help wrapping things up, or,
one of the neat things, the Ether, I think, I'll look up the name of it. Ether Spite Rig or something like that is called. Look it up here. Ether Sky Rig? Sky Rig, I think is what it's called. The Sky Rigs actually are like incredibly customizable. Engineer's Rig is what it's called, or a Sky Warden's Rig. She has a Engineer's Rig, and you can customize it with a bunch of different things. She's been like tinkering with her Engineer's Rig, adding in other modifications.
Cool. Got to get her to build me one of those.
It's how they will be getting you guys down. You do need to have some, knowledge of how to operate the things, and also they're typically accommodated by or operated with a Dwarden's frame in mind, but it's basically how they plan on doing the kind of like combat drop from the airship to get you guys down to the entry to the Sentry Woods.
Yeah, I think Nox would love the idea of having one of his own, but he's probably a little bit too hot-headed and wants some kind of nitro boost to it that would just explode in midair. So, give it a dose she's got.
So that's what Malgra's been working on, is just further modifications. She will also add in she will make some changes to it as well to account for the potential pollutants and toxins and infections that you will come across as the spawn of Nurgle.
And Nox can't help but, as she's telling us, she's like, "Have you considered using this gem in the engine? More power." No, it'll explode. Damn it.
What about Leisha? Does she have any further questions for Malgra?
No, I don't think so. Although, if she explained about, she gave the layout of Karaznethil, and she something's tickling at the back of her mind that so actually she does ask. She says, in the Kaza Lementiri, would there have been a place to store, or maybe like and she's kind of thinking out loud. She says, because this Forge of Found Futures, it sounds like a great place to store it would be a place where your future is being created, and that would be, it sounds like, in the Kaza Lementiri.
Her eyes kind of open. She says, I've not laid eyes on it myself, but my mother said it was a place where the grace of the Dwarden ancestors looked over the next for the Sylvaneth and their soul pods. As a means of safekeeping their young, the Forge of Found Futures, that may be a way that they kept them safe from the taint of corruption during the Age of Chaos. It would be a great boon that King Rumnar would have delivered to them. And it might explain why they survived for so long. You may be right, Alicia. That may be where it is found.
And she shrugs slightly. She says, at least that, that's just a thought. And perhaps it's another, perhaps it's a place or they would have stored it somewhere that was safer in not storage, but somewhere else that could not be reached as easily. But I would guess that place itself is not easily reached by outsiders.
No. And without more knowledge, we cannot speculate as to what might survive or what might be corrupted, but if the Warden King yet survives, and his people yet still fight, they may know either this is a fool's errand, or there is still hope to find this forge. Anything else you guys wish to discuss with Malgra?
No,
I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So then she will have some preparation and to do and some arrangements to make. What would you guys like to do, or if anything, before departing for Shaman?
Oh, go ahead.
Definitely getting some medicine and whatnot, just in case it's needed.
Okay.
And he's going to buy a bit more than what he thinks he needs, just in case there's others out there that they come across that might need it.
Okay. What about Alicia?
Alicia will. So it would be a couple of days at least, right? It sounds like.
Usually, probably as much time as you require.
Yeah. She would take the kind of that insight and go back and start to explore if there's anything else about the. I'm sorry, I lost the name because it's not in front of me.
Karaznethil.
Not Karaznethil, but the place specifically within it.
Yeah.
To see if there's any references to that, or what the Forge of Found Futures. Yeah. Or perhaps what the Forge of Found Futures looked like, or. Specifically how it works.
So I assume the Forge is something you guys have been pursuing for some time now, and this is sort of like the most recent, bit of information you'd be able to uncover about it.
Yep.
Perhaps you didn't know the name of it before. You were trying to find, knowledge of it, but. But that is that sounds great, and that brings us to the end of our session, guys. Yeah. So, this is what's your? I mean, we didn't see combat yet, but what's your takeaway for the Age of Sigmar and Soulbound setting?
Well, the setting, I'm really already hooked on it. I definitely want to see where this goes.
Yes, I completely agree. I like this. I like the dice rolling system. I really want to see the currency / drops in action, and kind of like see the. For one, that makes the fact that we only have like 7 or 9 wounds available seem a little bit less problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think.
But I love the setting. I think the setting's awesome. That's one of the things that always bothered me about. I've had different Warhammer RPG sets, and yes, I like the setting. I like the slightly darker version, or incredibly darker version of D&D. But I've always found that the whole no hope type thing is just sometimes just overwhelming.
Yeah, I like that the hope's ideal kind of thing is like, things are getting better. Fight for it. So
yeah, it's still not great, but there's the ability to claw back some of.
That whole concept with the money being useful for other things reminds me of a mechanic I read in a book once. It's like a lit RPG kind of thing, where they actually used that kind of stuff to like improve their abilities and level up as well. So
yeah,
that's really cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a really neat, and it's not true across every one of the mortal realms. Like in there's a grim and perilous, grim and perilous set of rules that they use for Ulfenkarn, which is the city at the edge of death thing. And in that one, the characters don't have soulbound because they're not soulbound characters. They're less powerful than what your starting characters are, and there's a different currency. So the Aqua Garanis is a much more valuable resource for it.
Yeah.
But even that, like with the power down, was a really, really, really fun adventure. It's super cool. I think that like the combat in it is such an interesting and fun part of the game that in past I focused too much on that rather than just the other part of the game, which is the world building, the character planning, and the downtime activities, which I think is a really neat thing. Like we were talking before we went on about how the game has different. I should check what the nomenclature is just to be sure. The perils, threats, and what is it here? Rumors 294. So there are rumors, fear, and threat. Rumors are a simple rumor they might hear that are whispers everyday people, and most pass them off as nonsense. Fear, the rumor has persisted and grown, with some now claiming they've seen or been affected by it. And then the threat, the worst fears come to life. There are visible effects on the city, such as raids in the walls, sickness, or people vanishing. We've almost kind of seen that over the course of the adventure of it, going from rumors about this, Karaznethil and the threat of during the Age of Chaos, to the fear now of that Nurgle has been there and has seen corruption, to when you travel there, it'll be a threat that you're actually facing. And that, I think, is neat, because in an ongoing game, you could spend this time slowly seeding kind of rumors, and you could see that progressing over time. And between adventures, as you do downtime stuff, seeing that stuff go from rumors to threats to fears, or your character's taking steps to try and address some of these things as you take ownership of the cities and whatnot. It's the potential for all the moving parts in the campaign and the story part of it seems really interesting to me. So awesome. Any closing thoughts before we launch into our outro? Oh, I'll mention this is Ruins of Karaznethil, is the source book I used for today as well, too. It's a little short source book. Karaznethil has appeared in a previous PDF source book called Refuges of the Mortal Realms, I think, or Refuges of the Realms, maybe. But this is the most recent release for it, and it just absolutely captured my imagination. The idea of the Sylvaneth and Dwarden combined city is so fucking cool as a location that, it's a really great source book.
Yeah, I just read across that because I was looking at, I opened up the Cubicle 7 site to start looking at some of this stuff. But, I guess maybe a quick question, Kev. Maybe this is useful for the folks who are watching as well. Do you have the starter set, and what's your opinion of it? Like, would you? I
do have the starter set. Yeah, I like the starter set. So the starter set has added value beyond just the first time you play. There's a great adventure that's in there that really brings Brightspear gets you involved in Brightspear. There's a source book for it that is really useful. I find it's got great information for the city, great maps. I don't think there is character generation stuff in the starter set, though, so that is the shortcoming for that. Yep. But it's a great source. There is added value. If you're new to the game, it's a great way to get a sense of whether you like the game or not, and there's added use for it if you go beyond that to the core book.
Okay.
And the core book's got a ton of material in it as well. Like we made use of the core book and the Champions of Order book today, which is sort of like the player's guide. It adds a couple another kind of ancestry, more elves to add in, and then a ton of new downtime options, a ton of new talents and stuff. But there's a ton in the core book itself. So it's a very robust line at this point, with a lot of great source books. And then the game even allows you, if you want to play, death focused or destruction focused, you want to play undead or you want to play orcs, there's source books for those two types of games as well. If you want to play a undead focused one or whatever. Great. Any other things that you guys want to chat about before, or ask about before we launch into the outro? Nada? XP. Nope. You guys each would have gained 1 XP for obtaining your short rewards. Nox, you were trying to get more involved with as your short-term goal with the powers in the city. You made contact with the Ironweld Arsenal. And Leisha, you helped out some small folks who both get 1 XP.
Nice.
And in the realm of experience, how much does it take to like tick something up or to level up, or do we have to accumulate a total?
So that would be depends on what your levels, but like you could get level 1 in training in a skill that you don't have. Okay. You get 1 focus in a skill you don't have. Raising attributes generally. Like to raise an attribute from say 4 to 5 would cost you 9 XP.
Okay.
New talents cost 2 XP, and training. Let me see here. I gotta double check. You might get 1 XP per session plus the short rewards, but I can't remember, or the short-term goals.
Okay. So it's not so much as a tier system. It's you level up continuously like more normal Warhammer games.
Exactly. Okay, it's cool. A much more open. And then there's also like because of the I think you can expect I want to say 1 to 2 XP per session on average. I might be wrong about that. I think that's something I was looking at before. I was trying to figure out how the advancement goes, and I had to look on Reddit to get a sense for it. But I think it's like 1 or 2 XP per session. 1 automatically, and then another one if you achieve your short-term goal. Okay. And like you would also like your short-term goal, you would be able to pick those too. The reason I randomly generated them is just to do something unconventional. You wouldn't be stuck with having to randomly generate it each time. Although there is a game that does that. Wrath and Glory has something like that it actually makes for a fun session because sometimes you're prompted to do things that you may not be inclined to do. Yeah, and then for long-term goals, that's 10 XP for achieving them. So there you go. Any other questions? Not it. Great. Well, then, guys, for those listening at home, thank you so much for joining us for our impromptu session playing Soulbound. As is always the case, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the session, the game, or the adventure we're playing, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section down below, and I will endeavor to reply in a timely fashion. There's also a link down below to the Dungeon Musings Discord server, where we have a channel dedicated to Warhammer games in general. We've run an awful lot of them on the channel over the past couple of years. So if you want to chat about the Age of Sigmar or any of the other Warhammer games you run, you can chat about that there. There's also a ton of other channels like Finding a Group or GM Discussion or just general chat. There's a great community that has built up over the years over there that are friendly, knowledgeable, and helpful, so you are more than welcome to join us over there. There's also a link down below to our friends at Noble Knight Games. Noble Knight Games is the preeminent unionized retailer of hard-to-find and out-of-print RPGs in North America. Not only do they have an amazing selection of new role-playing games, board games, and card games, they have an unmatched selection of hard-to-find and out-of-print RPGs. If they do not have something in stock in their extensive catalog, you can put it on the want list, and they'll send you an email when it comes in. And if you make a purchase of $10 or more through their website, be sure to enter the code MuserMashup. All caps, all one word. It's listed in the description of the video, and you will save yourself 10% on your purchase. That'll change in September of 2024. So if you're listening to this after the end of September, then come back to one of our more recent videos, and you'll find what the current discount code is there. There's also a link down below to something called Heroes Save Villages, which is the charity fundraising campaign we run on the channel. It benefits the SOS Children's Villages International Charity, really incredible organization active in over 130 countries, benefiting over 80,000 orphaned and abandoned children. You can find all about their activities by following that link, and any donations that are made through that link go directly to them. None of it goes to the channel or any other middleman. It just goes to help the kids who are serviced by SOS Children's Villages International. As a small way of saying thank you, if you have donated $25 or more to the Heroes Save Villages campaign since January 1st, then head on over to the Charity Initiatives channel on the Dungeon Musings Discord server, and you will be able to cast your vote for the first of the 5 mashup sessions we'll be running this year. At the end of August, we'll be running a session mashing up the classic Expedition to the Barrier Peaks with an RPG it was not designed to be played with. We have 4 different options, and 3 of them are already in the running with the voting thus far. So if you have donated $25 or more to the Hero Save Villages campaign, head on over to the Charity Initiatives channel, cast your vote, and you will have 4 other games afterwards for further mashup sessions. We've got a wide selection of classic RPG adventures or campaigns. And Robert is so excited for it, he can barely contain himself. So then, the last thing I will say is an enormous thank you to our stalwart players. The guys learned we're playing Soulbound about 15 minutes before we logged in. So Robert and John, thank you so much for being such troopers, as always, and diving in and doing such an amazing job of bringing these characters to life in the session, too. That was really, really fun. It's rare we do a pickup that is just role-playing. And this was a lot of fun to do that today. So thanks very, very much, guys.
The only regret is I couldn't use a fireball yet. And actually, I actually got into it, but I was like, I'm going to create like an incantation just for Nox, so when he summons the fireball. So,
oh, nice!
If you want to hear it, it's from the Forge of Grungni. I cast forth the hottest embers, be tempered in the flame and reforged, or melt away as slag.
Nice. Very cool. Very, very cool. So, I have a feeling this may not be the last we see of these soulbound heroes.
That would be the last question I would ask, would be like, are we going to see these guys again? I would really much like to.
Yeah, it was really, it's a game I love running. And, if we find ourselves in, well, I mean, yeah, we'll talk about it offline, but I mean, I would definitely be interested. It's a very, very cool setting, and the way that they, there's a lot of things that I love about this particular game and this particular setup. So then we'll be back, it seems, either back in the Mortal Realms or in the Great White North with our regular Guard campaign, or perhaps the Bronze Age Marvel Universe. Who knows? We'll see what scheduling accommodates, but in any event, we will be back with more of our heroes in 2 weeks' time. But until then, we hope that we gave you a few hours to take your mind off the troubles of our world and think about the troubles that our soulbound heroes in the Mortal Realms are planning to try and reach the plagued land of Karaznethil. And until we see you again, stay safe, stay healthy, and happy gaming.